It'll either fit this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different ways that could possibly fit. So it's very important that I go ahead and mark that. Before I go any farther, you know, I wrote top on here. Well, this is upside down, so the top goes down. And since I traced it on the template off of this, it needs to go just like the template. To cover any true position error I'm going to run into, drill the holes in the plate a 1/2 inch in diameter. The actual bolt size is a 7/16, so these should line up with no problem. Wind's picking up. Now that's not in a bind, that's just got some crap in the threads on that bottom center one. We got just a little bit of wiggle room there. And like I said, there's some crap in this thread, so I'm going to have to there we go. I'm just going to run these down. I'm going to have to take the 3 right here out and cut them shorter, because the distance back here where the nut is welded, there's not enough room. They'll bottom out on the furnace liner before they actually tighten up. Got some trash in this one, it looks like. Now, this is not only going to be temporary for ramming the refractory, I'm probably going to go ahead and repurpose this, beef it up, strengthen it to support the burner. At this point, it's not heavy enough without some gussets welded in there to strengthen it up. So let me cut these shorter and I'll be right back. Alright, so all these are good and tight. Next step, I've got to put the core back in. The wind is blowing pretty good out here right now, so I'm thinking about bringing this, the whole thing inside to go ahead and get the tube cut. I'd prefer not to move it if I don't have to, though. So now that I got the core in place and we have the back plate on, I can take measurements now and figure out what size the pipe length has to be. It looks like we're going to start it at 5 and end at 4.5. So what would be ideal would be if my tuyere would butt right up to the core and meet with it. I'm not too worried about that. I'm just worried about getting it as close as I can, and then I can punch out the refractory, chisel it out to finish the hole out. I may change my mind before we get to that point. I'll come back to that shortly. Right now, it looks like we're fixing to get a monsoon, so I am probably just going to pick this whole thing up and bring it in the building. Until I get through cutting that tuyere and fitting it, I'm going to leave it at this height where I'm not bending down. Now when I get ready to ram the refractory, it will be setting down in something solid. Alright, so now that I got the hole out, I've got to run around this, smooth out the jags, and I'll do that down low. Try to keep the vibration down. Ooh, very close. Make sure this thing's not out of round before I try to force it. Top goes upside down. We're gonna anchor this back in place. And then we'll be able to fit our tuyere through that hole. Grind the profile along the end. Try to get it as close to the core as we can. And then we will tack weld it to this. It's touching both on the top and bottom. But anyway, that's the beginning of it. I'm going to think on this a second. Normally I'd just put silicone around that intersection, but getting it up under the very bottom is a trick. And on top of that, I'm probably going to go ahead and cap the end of that off. I'm definitely going to be putting on several layers of slidable wrap over this, along with belt sanding the outside to try to smooth it up where it will slide out when the refractory sets up. So yeah, we're not done yet. Alright, so now that that's pretty much where I want it. Look around here on the back side, because alright, so now that this is in place, I put a mark, I ground a little top dead center chamfer right there, and I'm going to gently, without moving the core, I'm going to slide this up, wiggle it, make sure it's setting, making contact on the top and bottom. I'm temporarily tack welding here, here, and probably in 3 places on the outside to hold the tuyere pipe in line with the flange. Once that's tack welded, the flange comes off. Then we wrap wax paper around the tube, seal the flange, bolt it back together, and my goal is to have this after lunch all ready to ram up. The core now will have to come out temporarily as I pack green sand in the exhaust. After the refractory cures, I will cut the welds here, pull the plate off, and then I will commence to removing this out of the refractory. And then I can get to work on my burner and get it, along with gussets, welded to this plate to strengthen it. Alrighty. So I filled the bottom of this tube with Durham's Rock Hard water putty, and then I put a coat of paint on it. Of course, that's where it was touching the core in there. There's a very good chance we're going to lose power. I'll try to hurry up and get as much of this done as I can. Alright, so the silicone is harder now. So we'll go ahead and tighten all these bolts up. That should have a very tight seal now. Got my timing mark this way lined up. Got it that way. All right. I am not sitting flat, but that's not a problem. I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna ram some sand on the inside to keep this sitting solid. Alright, so that's not going anywhere. That'll take care of that. This is as far as we are going to be going with this part of it. Now we got to make the bottom pan. It's going to have the iron bath in it along with a pouring spout. I'm going to let this refractory set up a few more days before I go pulling all the cores out of it. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and start pulling this thing apart and seeing how we did. It's been 2 days, and I'm going to have to cut the welds on this flange, I think, before that'll come out. Good thing is, none of this leaked on me. Now, I tell you, I got COVID, by the way. Well, I'm assuming I do. I have not been able to taste anything since yesterday. So I started getting on my vitamin D, vitamin C, Q-Certin, and zinc. And I already feel a little better. So hopefully I'll feel like $100 tomorrow. We'll see. If I don't, I guess I'll have to go in there, doctor. I'm worried that I didn't ram refractory in the box here. And if that's the case, I'll know here in a little bit. Like I said, I got 3 welds I got to cut. And I got silicone on the threads. So great. The tube is wrapped several layers with foil tape and wax paper, several layers, so that will make that tube a lot easier to come out of there. At this point, I don't want to do any of that until we see if the refractory went around on the inside of that lid. Man, I feel rough. Yeah, let's see where we Let's see how it looks. I guess the whole tube's coming out. All right. It was really crumbly out here, but it's good and solid right there, so we're okay. I was getting worried. It's very hard to ram up refractory in little side ports like that, but I can go ahead and cast a refractory brick with that hole in it and push it up in that inset. Matter of fact, I am planning on making a gasket anyway, so that might be what I do there. Well, I went ahead and turned it upside down. I picked it up and I set it over on the vat, not the full load of it, and knocked the core sand out that was stopping up the exhaust. All that's good and clean. And as I said, I had it upside down, so I know the refractory is going to stay in place. I did have retaining pins welded probably 4 places, maybe 8, along this area here, right up under that surface. And honestly, because it's conical like this, when it's upside down, it's just going to wedge into the sheathing, so it's not going anywhere. So I'm going to, before I do anything else, I'm going to take this out. I'm going to set it up on the table, and I'm going to burn that core out, and I don't want it smoking up my building. So that's the next step. And then once I get that out, I'll get in there and chisel out the full diameter of that tuyere that runs into the lining. Right now there is a partial hole there. Yeah, it'd be leveler closer to the front of the truck, but I don't want to be burning this out right in front of the truck. We'll let that simmer at 325 for a while. Get that burned out, and then we'll be able to take a look at the refractory on the inside. It feels hard as I get past the flange area here going in, but won't know for sure till I examine the entire surface. I think everything's okay. The refractory seems to be pretty solid except right here, and I think it'll be fine as it gets on up in there. You can hear that. It's good and hard. Now it is kind of weak right up under the tuyere because it's hard to ram it up under there. Hear it? And if that gives way, it's going to be in the head, so I'm not worried about it anyway. I needed about 5 more pounds to bring me up to here, but I have more than enough depth from here to the ceiling. that's going to be fine. So what I decided to do is just go ahead and cut this down flush to the refractory all the way around. I'm going to work on that. And then I was going to take the original bottom from this ladle, which is right there, and I was going to use that as the bath container. But it's not going to be deep enough. So then I was thinking, all right, so how am I going to make it deeper? I do have some expansion rings down in storage so I could weld onto the sides of it. Or I could go over here and go ahead and pour a bottom. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and, I haven't used this furnace before, so it'll be the first time I ever use it. I'm going to have to do a little work on it to retrofit it to accept my burner, because this was originally set up for butane, or natural gas, I'm sorry. And once I, that should take me about a day to get the burner made for it and get those others off. So these pipes, I'm going to have to take them, I'm going to have to take each one of these pipes off. And then I'm going to have to ram ceramic fiber blanket up in the holes to stop them up. And I'll put my burner directly onto one of the back ones here. Yeah, I'll put it on this side. And it shouldn't, for aluminum, we're not going to have to put a big burner on. And the only problem with using one like this, it's going to take a long time to heat up that much mass. But you know, like I said, I don't want to, this thing probably hasn't been used in 20 years, so I don't want to go ramming it up to high heat anyway, not yet. Yeah, I missed my hand a while ago. It happens. The other one just spun right off after I loosened it. That's this one. You gotta be kidding.
For those who have been asking about the Windy Hill Foundry hats, these are now available on my website, windyhillfoundry.com, under stores, or you can click on the above link. These are on the pricey side, but keep in mind the shipping is included. Have a good day.